In this demo, we will set up the course and the authentication we need to use the Databricks CLI. First, make sure you select Classic Compute. Let's go to the top, and you should have a compute cluster named lab user and some username. Just select that. Now, from here, we're going to run the classroom setup just to set up our environment. It's going to create multiple catalogs and data for us. So I'll simply run this cell. And while it's running, we'll talk about what it will do. It'll take about a minute, but it'll create 3 catalogs for us to isolate our environments by catalog. The catalog name will be your lab username _1_dev. It'll contain a schema called default in all 3 catalogs. Each catalog within that schema will also contain a volume called health. In the dev catalog, we'll have a dev_health CSV file, which is our small subset of data of prod, about 7,500 rows to do our development on. For stage, we will have a stage health CSV file, has a little bit more rows, about 35,000. And then our prod catalog will contain prod data. Essentially, a new CSV file is placed into this volume daily. So again, this is our setup. Again, this will take about a minute to run. It'll have some notes for us to use. But while we're waiting, let's take a look at the folder structure for our course. To the left side, you will have a variety of folders. Each folder is specific to a demo other than this required notebook. We go back a folder. This will be the main folder. You really won't need anything in here. So let's go back to automated deployment with Databricks asset bundles. And again, you'll mostly be in this folder. Here we can see the setup is complete. There are some notes here for you. The dev catalog reference, we will use the Python variable da.catalogdev. And that'll just reference our catalog, the dev catalog, same with stage and same with prod. So here are our folders. Based on the demo, you'll go into that folder and follow the notebook instructions. Now, down here, let's look at those catalogs that we just talked about that were created. Just simply select your catalog icon. And let me scroll over here, and we'll see we have these catalogs that we'll be using for our process or our pipeline. I'll expand one of these, and we can see that health volume with the CSV file, and then same with the stage one, has the stage CSV file, and so on. Now, throughout the course, we might be using these variables, and they'll just dynamically reference the correct catalog for your lab environment. Each user has their own username and their own catalog names. So we can use these to dynamically reference the catalog we would like. So here's just a quick print statement. And just to show you that if I use da.catalog_dev, it'll point to the dev catalog and so on. Now, in this course, we'll be using the Databricks CLI within a notebook. Now, you can use this in a variety of places, but in this case, we're going to use it through the notebook, so it's a little bit easier to teach from, but this might not be where you're using the Databricks CLI. Now, in the real world, in this lab, we're going to save our personal access token in a folder within our environment. Your personal access token is like a password. You don't really want to store it in plain text. For the purpose of this lab and simplicity, we're just going to save it in here and then utilize that to authenticate to use the CLI on our workspace. We're going to do this for you. So we're going to store the Databricks CLI credentials. So we built this method for you to set up your credentials, and it's simply going to create your personal access token and your workspace URL over here. So let's just run this cell. And again, this notebook is required to run. So you do have to run this notebook to continue on to this course because it'll set everything up for you. By default, it'll add the host here for you for our credentials, but we do need a personal access token. So to get a personal access token, what we'll do is we'll go to our little icon, and then I'm going to right click and select Open in New tab. And in here, we're going to go to Developer, Access Tokens Manage, and then we're going to generate a new token. So in our case, I'm going to just call this course. I'll give it 1 day. I will let you know if you end this lab and come back in, your lab is cleared and reset to the original structure. So you do have to do this again if you close your lab. But I'm just going to set this to 1 day and select generate. Now, again, I am showing you mine. You should not be showing your personal access token to anyone. In this case, again, this is going to reset the lab and this whole thing will be cleared out. But I will copy this using the button, as well as copying it with Command C or Control C to copy this. Within the environment, sometimes this command copy won't work within the lab. So just copy it both ways and then press done. And then I'll simply close out of this. Once you are done with that, we can go down here and then paste our personal access token and then click off to the side. You should get a note that the credentials were stored, and then it created a nice file here for us with a configuration file. And again, I'll show you mine. You should not be showing this to other users, but there's my personal access token and my workspace. So our Databricks CLI will use those to authenticate and then enable us to run Databricks CLI commands. So we did all this. We generated our credentials. I showed you how to do it. We pasted it. We got this credential stored. We got this folder created here for us that we'll be using throughout this course. Again, I do want to note, if you reset this lab or end this lab, everything is reset and you will have to do this again for this course. We created this method for you just to authenticate and get this started. Again, we don't want to spend too much time in authentication for a lab. There is some documentation that you can look at for authentication, for setting up your workspace, etc. You'll get a note every time you authenticate. Every time this method goes and tries to authenticate, it found the credentials and we're good to go. Again, anything with DA is a custom object for our labs that will run in Vocarium only, which is our lab environment. Now, next we're going to install the Databricks CLI to use within a notebook. We're not going to go into details on how to do that because depending on where you're installing it and how you're doing it, it can differ. So we don't want to spend too much time here. There is a documentation here to show you how to install the Databricks CLI and go into that detail. So this will just install the Databricks CLI for us. It went and found the credentials and it installed version 240 in root bin Databricks. So now our notebooks can use Databricks CLI commands. To confirm it's working, we'll first run %sh, which enables us to run bash scripts within a notebook. Again, you might not be using a notebook to do this. Later on, we'll look at how to do this with VS Code, or you can pick another IDE of your choice. We'll just run this, and look, we have the CLI version. So just a couple of quick commands for you to learn. The first one is Databricks %sh, again, to use the bash script, Databricks-help. And this will just show us some additional documentation for the Databricks CLI. So it's just a good one to learn, and we can see it provides us a variety of documentation for us to use. We're going to use this catalog, so Databricks catalogs, in the next cell, and this will just list our catalogs available. So again, we're not going to go too deep into this, but now if we say Databricks catalogs help, it'll give us help for the catalogs command. So create, delete, get, list, update, and more. And then some flags and global flags. With the Databricks CLI, we can use it to list all of our available catalogs. So here I can say Databricks catalog list. And as we can see, this is listing all of our available catalogs in our environment. So this was just a quick course setup, reviewing our lab environment, and then getting the Databricks CLI to work. If you're having any issues running any of these commands, please go back, make sure the authentication folder is correct, make sure your personal access token was added. Again, don't share your personal access token. There is some notes in this markdown to talk about following your organization's best practices with it. We're using a demonstration lab environment, so we're just storing it in plain text here. So that is it for this demo. Again, this does have to work, and this is required to take the rest of this course. Thanks for watching.